Good? All right. So hopefully everyone had their lunch, and it's always tough going on after lunch, right? But there was a lot of people walking around, so I think we'll be in pretty good shape. I'm going to talk today about Process Builder. I've been working in Salesforce for a couple of years, and so I thought it would be time maybe to give back a little bit based on some of our experience. So I've got maybe a little poll there to find out what your level of experience is. If anybody's interested, that's my LinkedIn address. Feel free to tag me and say, hey, saw your presentation, I want to connect. So especially if you're in the Atlanta area, it'd be my pleasure. Platinum sponsors, right? If any of you guys are here, thank you. I've been through most of the booths, some pretty good stuff. You know, it takes a little bit extra to put something like this on. And so these sponsors are very positive. It started out, there was a couple, got a little worried, but you know, a lot of them came through. So thank you to these guys, and make sure you swing by and tell them that. I'll do a little safe harbor. You've all seen the Salesforce one, right? I have a personal one. What I'm going to talk about is my personal experiences, right? It's not based on any customer or client that I have, nobody that I work for. I'm going to talk about really generic business processes. If I do any hands-on work, it's going to be in my personal demo, my dev work. We're having a lot of web problems, so hopefully we'll get through a little bit of Process Builder real-time demo. I have some PowerPoint demo if we need to fall back, but not as interesting. I am not at any Salesforce non-disclosure, so don't ask me what they're going to do in the next release, because I know about what you guys know. We're on a success community, so we do get some information, but again, I have no view of where they're going with these products. And I talk about a couple of things later on where I think we might see, but again, they're my personal opinion. They're not Salesforce's opinion. Okay? So who am I? Well, I describe myself basically as a data and application guy, right? I do both. I've worked in the Atlanta corporate marketplace for 25 years. Most of the companies you guys have dealt with, I've probably dealt with them in one manner or another, either through a user group or did a lot of contracting a few years ago. Right now, I'm a technical lead on a fairly large install, 1,000 users. I don't know if that's big or small to you guys. My team, it's kind of big, right? So I'll just be forewarned. I've been doing this about 2 years. Prior to that, I've got a lot of experience in a lot of enterprise class systems, primarily in the sales, marketing, finance area, right? So I'm not an engineering guy, and a lot of you guys are nonprofits or education, things of that nature. It's not really my experience, but I'll share with you what I know. I am a subject matter expert in things around pricing intelligence and revenue optimization, which is one of the reasons I have a safe harbor. There's a lot of issues if you're involved in pricing with sharing, so we have to be really, really careful with that from a privacy perspective. My programming background, obviously Apex, right? Not by choice, but obviously Apex. I've done a lot of .NET and Java in the past. You could probably name 50 development environments. I've probably programmed in them all, so very broad. I'm not here to sell you guys anything, okay? You feel better about that? There's a lot of vendors, right? A lot of consultants and people going around. I'm a customer of Salesforce. I'm not a vendor. So I'm here basically to share with you my experience, kind of maybe get a little different flair from some of the experts and some of the thought processes that go on in the world. This is what we do. This is what I found. So hopefully it's helpful. A little bit about my team. About 1,000 users, support, sales, service, and marketing, although that marketing stuff's still pretty early in the life cycle for us. But A lot of service users, a lot of sales users. The IT organization is me. I have 4 admins, basically people that come out of the business organization and report into the business organization, a very matrix team. I have another IT individual that does security, primarily from a separation of duties in my world. The last thing I need to be worried about when you have system admin access and a lot of that kind of stuff is you don't want to be the guy that's doing security too, because the auditors will be all over you. So I don't do security, thank God. But that's it. 4 business people, 1 full-time IT person, and 1 part-time IT admin. So, who are you guys? How many people in here would consider themselves an admin? No, quite a crew. How about would classify themselves as a developer? Okay. How about other? Any users? Yeah, okay. Why are you guys here? The best option out of them all. Hopefully I'll teach you something. Hopefully you'll learn something. It's interesting stuff. I find it interesting. How many people have ever written a process builder task in production? Okay, so that's actually good news, so I don't have to do a lot of demos on it. How about visual workflow? How many have used those? Okay, good deal. Apex developers? Okay, that's so many. Talk to me a little bit about how long you guys have worked in Salesforce. Anybody less than a year? 2 years or less? 3 years? More than 3? No. Okay. Deal. Usually I talk about people who are like, what? What? All right. Salesforce customers versus vendors. Who's the customer? And how many of you guys are actually vendors selling back into the community? Okay. All right. So pretty good mix. You guys take notes? Got the poll numbers? All right. So what happened? 2 years ago, I got handed a Salesforce implementation that they'd been worked on for a year with a implementation partner. I was not involved in that implementation. There were no IT people involved in that implementation. Past year and a half, 2 years, I spent my life taking code out of the system. All right? We basically were handed some 600, no, let me rephrase that, about 80 triggers and about 600 classes that did all of the business processing. There was no workflow, there was no process builder, there was nothing. All right? So my job is to fix that with an IT staff of 1, remember the number here. I also do a lot of work with managing the system, operations-related stuff. I do all the change management among all the admins, all the deploys. Do the sprint works on we do a sprint like every 8 weeks. I do all the sprint planning. Doesn't leave a lot of time to write code. I do write a lot of code, but I don't write code that does business processing. And first, that was a really tough sell. As you'll see, it's gotten a lot easier. I'm going to walk you through a business case of basically reworking trigger code-based business process into a process builder-centric one. All right, so that's what we did. There's some goals. We'll talk a little bit about how we did that. One of the key points is that I've got 4 admins and 1 IT person. What do I want to do? I want to push work to the admins. And what do the admins want? They want more work, right? They want to be able to respond quicker, manage better customer expectations. We're a fairly aggressive organization when it comes to change. I personally am a guy that blows stuff up. It's what I do, right? So it's one of the reasons I was put on the project. Here's the business case for change. How many of you guys have heard this? All right. They sold the system to the business as clicks, not code. But when it came to the process, what we got was code, not clicks. It's pretty ugly. The bad thing is, once people started using the system, a constant set of evolving changes, right? Over and over and over again. Tweak this, tweak that. We spent literally 9 months on business design, right? And when we actually implemented the system, what I heard, outside of the fact that this is flat out wrong, what I heard was, why isn't it smarter, right? I don't know how many guys deal with Salesforce on a day-to-day basis. The big question I hear from sales guys all the time, why do I have to type so much, right? They're in an opportunity, they're in a case, they're going through the system over and over again, they're re-entering the same kinds of data, right? So fix that, Mark. Why am I getting these emails? Stop annoying me, right? The developers who originally put the system together thought that sending a business person a message was the best thing that they could do, and they sent them a lot, all right? And they got ticked off. Then the other half of that is, why didn't I get notified? Right? People that are on the process who are getting involved, they're like, how the heck can I do my job if you don't tell me? So you got to manage those two environments. And then, obviously, it's great, but, right? Insert process change here. What didn't you think about? What didn't the implementation guys know that people didn't tell them? All right, on a personal note, this is my change request. First, probably 6 months that I was on the system. I'm just looking for January. We implemented somewhere around September, October 2014 when we went live. We cut over to a Salesforce-based change management system. We built this ourselves. I ended up this backlog of change requests. Notice there's no number. You can get a relative scale. This is what we did with 6 people, working full-time, nights and days. And this is what we had, right? You can see created versus closed here, right? You can see we got more in than we fixed. Got more in than we fixed. We fixed some, but we're still getting them in, right? Stayed even. Starting to get a little better out here. What happened? Well, I'll tell you what happened. The world I work in, we do these things called experiments. Anybody do those? Anybody have an experimental view of the world? So it's a model that says basically develop a premise, go and get some funding, and then get evaluated on your results, right? And if you do really good, you get to do more experiments. If you don't do so good, the next time you come looking for money or change, you probably don't get it, right? So it's kind of a performance-based view of the world. So the scope of what I was looking at, right? How do they sell Salesforce? What do the business teams see? They saw something, basically an enabling system, right? Something that would give them some 360-degree view of the world, automate me, basically do my job for me, right? That's what the sales guy said. It'll do my job for me. I just sit back and manage the exceptions. So how do we get there? We weren't there. So I got an IT job, right? What do I have to do personally? Well, it's got to be stable. I got to be able to promote changes through my life cycle. It's got to be auditable. Forgot about those guys. 6 months after we went live, they came knocking at the door, right? Hey, what's going on, guys? Take a look under the hood. The business job, right? Agile. Sponsored the change. The business team operates in a world a lot different than the IT world, right? So the IT guys are kind of plodding along, doing a 3-6 month project, delving it out. The business guys have changed policies 5 times in those 3 months, right? I mean, they're just much more aggressive. You build something up, they don't like it, they throw it away. You tell an IT guy after 3 months of work that I'm throwing it away, he goes home and cries, right? It's like, I wasted my time for 3 months, But you got to be there. That's what the system is designed to do. That's the vision. That's why they wrote the check. Got to take care of it. So goals, personal goals, complexity and supportability. Got to get better. Got to more effectively leverage the resources that I had available to me, basically admins. Got to get better with the changes, right? You saw that big long list of backlogs. You gave us about a 3-month window where they said, okay, we're good. But after that, it's like, hey, where's our changes? Where's our enhancements, right? Innovation, new capabilities. We did an experiment, a process called installs. This is basically a picture of what we did probably about a year ago now when we started this thing. So a lot of it's kind of dated. This process has moved on. We've done many others. This is kind of dipping the foot in the water and saying, can we fix this if we actually can? Because I didn't know that we could. So, stepping back, Salesforce bag of tricks. As an IT guy, I looked at everything. What do we have available? I looked at third-party partners. I looked at all kinds of stuff. I said, 2 things were kind of interesting. We already owned them. We wouldn't use them, right? Both of them kind of, from a release view of the world, showed up 2014, early 2015 window, right? When those things kind of got out of beta into real world. Obviously, all of 2014, we were doing development. None of the stuff was considered at all as part of our implementation. I like Process Builder. I thought it was a pretty interesting tool. For me, had kind of a trigger flavor to it, right? So I had a lot of trigger code, right? Basically, Salesforce allows you a certain number of bytes of code, Apex code. We were at 75% when we did the install. That's a lot of code. It was able to leverage Apex programming. I had a lot of classes. I had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of business process in code. Didn't want to rewrite it all. Didn't want to do it all. But the vision was, can I leverage some of that code, take it out of triggers, put it in classes, stop dealing with test classes that change over and over again. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why you want to do that, right? I thought I had a good view of visualization of the process. What happened a lot was the admins in particular would come and say, how does this work? And I'd open up, you know what I'd open up if you're a developer, right? 2 or 3 choices. You'd open it and the eyes would get crossed and you're like, well, how does it work? The visualization is very, very powerful, right? So from a business team, from an admin perspective, you can look at a set of diagrams, a picture, and you can probably puzzle through that and figure out what's going on with it. I looked at visual workflow. I wasn't impressed, sorry. I thought it was kind of interesting. We do a lot of things called like Wizard, that kind of style. I thought it was pretty powerful there. Didn't see a lot of value to it personally. The 4 admins I got, they're all Excel guys, right? They all had gone through developing workflow rules, kind of the predecessor to a lot of this stuff, right? They jump all over this stuff, right? They just like it. I find it a little bit technical, a little bit hard, but just something they just seem to enjoy. So from an admin perspective, if you like this kind of thinking process of drawing and getting a visualization, it actually is a very, very powerful tool, and I'm a big fan of it now. We've actually even done some of the Wizard stuff, right? It's actually been pretty cool. We've done some survey, some internal surveys, right? So we have opportunity close. Guys are like, hey, why didn't you sell my product line? And so put some surveys in, ask some questions. Why didn't you sell that product line? Give them some answers. So give some feedback to the category folks and saying what's going on in the sales world. So it was actually pretty positive. And what we actually ended up doing is that working with a couple of salespeople, we got a pretty cool little wizard. And you know, you could go buy a survey tool, spend a lot of money, and you all guys know the pitch, right? The per user charge. That stuff will stick it to you, I'm telling you. 1,000 users, just dollar signs start ringing up. So we buy it if it makes sense. We build it if it makes more sense, right? We'll probably throw it away. what the business guys do. Questions? Good. All right, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I'm going to give you a 50-cent tour, right? For those of you who haven't seen Process Builder at all, and if the wireless people cooperate, it's been up and down all day today, so, and it is down, unfortunately. So, this is Process Builder. What can it do? Well, do a lot of stuff. Some key points to take away, right? It's based on an object, so you got to have something to start with, right? There's some work you can do initiating it here, but I'm not going to get into that. But generally speaking, for what you're looking at, you're going to basically select an object, a case, an opportunity, a lead. You pick a choice, right? Any of those kind of objects, you're going to deal with. You get some criteria, right? So this thing, you can keep adding these things, and it goes down and down and down, right? As many as you want. You want to do actions, as many as you want. This thing comes down, you can do lots of stuff here. Some really cool scheduled actions with the last release. Used to be you could just do one, now you can do a bunch more. So if you haven't looked at it and you have some scheduled actions, they've made a lot of changes to that. That's actually very, very useful. I'm going to give this wireless one shot and then I'm going to quit, so bear with me here. Yep. Hey, there we go. All right, so let's add an object real quick. So what do? You go through your list, right? All of them are all in there. Go pick the one you want. So whatever start ahead of your process. So you're dealing with an account, real high level, it's the guy you want to do to start it. Not the only piece of data you have access to. You got access to a real lot of stuff. So if you're stuck kind of in the old workflow rules world where you had very limited capability in terms of where you were going, tool like Process Builder, you can do a lot of really neat stuff. I'm going to take account just a couple of points. This thing is here, recursion. I'm going to talk a little bit about recursion and what it costs you. I've done a lot of work with it. Generally speaking, you don't want to select that unless you really know what you want to do. So you got to be careful of that one. Kind of quirky. He lets you to save stuff a lot. Right? So if you just notice, I couldn't go any further. I said I couldn't go on in the process until you hit select. You can come in here. You can add criteria. Right? What's criteria? Well, heck, it's fields. Right? You know what criteria is. All the fields that are in the account object. You can look at multiple. You want to add more than one, you can do that kind of stuff, right? Some really cool stuff. You don't necessarily have to do, he's not cooperating with me. You got this kind of any or all kind of thing. So if you have 10 checks that you want to do, you can say, I want them all to qualify. I want any of them to qualify, right? That kind of stuff. One thing that you kind of got to get used to is you got a criteria matches. It's going to go down this path, and that's the end. It doesn't go anywhere. So you're used to kind of visual programming tools where you got this looping and this capability. You're not there, right? This is the end of it. So probably the one downside of it as a programmer that I kind of looked at. So if you want that kind of capability, Visual workflow is probably where you need to be with it, but simplistic, this is really, really easy to use. Pick a process. Good.
Can I ask a question about
Sure.
this step? So I've done some process builders. I probably get an errors after putting a process builder into production. I probably get an error back about 70% of the time.
Really?
It's usually because some field is null. Like I want to copy the primary contact owner over to some third related record or something. Is this step here where you would check like for your required fields that you need if they're null?
You could certainly do that. And I'm going to show you, and I actually have another demo I'm going to show you where we do some of that kind of work. So the short answer is, you can do checking everywhere, right? You can check here, you can string your criteria again, you can say, it is not null, right? I mean, you can do those kinds of things. And you can group these things, right? You can have 20 of these things, and then you can do this thing here. Anybody ever done this one? Customize logic? Well, basically what that does is open the formula view of the world. And you could say, I want this from column A, and this from column B, and this from column C. And you can actually get fairly sophisticated. Again, I got a lot of Excel worksheet guys back at the office, and they just love getting into this kind of formula stuff that's available, right? So the short answer is yes. A better answer is fix it before you get here, right? Or fix it after here. We'll talk about it a little bit more. So immediate actions, I'm going to actually add a criteria. He wants me to save. Pay attention, Mark. What's he want?
You have to choose the field before you start searching for the value. There you go.
Yeah. So, welcome to Power Builder, right? So, interesting view of the world. You can keep on going down through here, right? Who knows what we're doing? Does anybody know what I'm doing? Gets a little scary sometimes. I'm going to back out of here. Immediate actions, there's all kinds of stuff in there. We'll show you some of the stuff that we do that we use quite a lot. But if you pull down that list, there's everything you could ever want to do and more. So I'm going to get out of here because I don't want to spend any more time on the tour. Just take your takeaway, right? Just declarative. Visual, you click some stuff, you make some selections, you set some equals, boom, you're done. You don't write any code. You can do a lot of stuff, right? You can create new records, you can update related records. You're not limited to the kinds of things you can do in say, like a workflow rule where you're just stuck on that record, in the object that you're dealing with, nothing else, right? That's actually pretty easy to do. You saw the quick actions, right? One of the really cool things is you can call a visual workflow. So you could use Process Builder to trigger something from an object, some change in an object, and then call flow. Talk a little bit about that. We do a lot of that. You can do approvals. How many people do approvals of objects and things like that in their world? All right? So what happens when they forget to click it? Nothing. Nothing, right? If you want, you could click it for them.
I have a question about that.
Sure.
I built a process to automatically submit the record for approval, but I left our approval process in place. That seems to have broken that email approver deniability. Have you heard of that, or should I build the approval into the process? Can I do that? And just get rid of the workflow rules?
I actually, as the example I'll show you, we actually looked at both workflows, and I used the standard workflow as opposed to the Process Builder one, right? If I would use Process Builder one, I probably wouldn't build a big workflow diagram. I would use Process Builder to say, particularly if you got thresholds, things like that you want for approval, you can do a lot of that in Process Builder. Probably a little cleaner way of doing it. If you work a lot in the approval workflow, visualization, kind of funky, right? Not quite visual workflow, not quite process builder, just kind of something in the middle there, right? I actually like this implementation better. It's really what event is driving the workflow. If it's got to be a click, and you require it, like we require our Salesforce guys to say, we're done, submit it. But that was kind of the key business requirement that took us away from it. But I would filter it. I would get more granular in the workflow, in the process builder than I would in a kind of a approval diagram. Does that help you?
Yeah, it does.
So, process builder, you saw the vid. It's a sequential process, right? So it's real control over do this, do this, do this, do this. If this happens, do this, right? Once you get to true, you're gone. So you don't have the opportunity to come back around a lot with it. So you need to think that through a little bit. If you need that kind of view of the world, probably not in process builder, you're probably going to another visual tool to do that kind of work. What did I really like? It's really trigger light. It's got this change thing. So a lot of what we do, for those of us that are developers, you're constantly saying what's changed in the object, right? In fact, if you looked at that, those 600 classes, probably 10% of those lines are saying, if this changed over the last time, this process needs to happen, right? So it's actually pretty cool for that. We do that a lot. You can basically restrict the process builder to say, I only want this to happen if it's changed, and I only want it to be changed in this implementation, this run, right? So you can scope your stuff way down. It's really pretty easy to do. It's easy to make it big, and you start saying, why is it fire, why is it fire? But you can get in here and do is change kind of logic. You can say only if it's changed, and just iteration, right? So there's actually some pretty cool stuff you can do with it. All right, I got to move real quick. I apologize. So installs, the business process, right? We had a manual business process. I have a service desk. I got sales guys. Sales guys sell something. I throw it over the wall. I send an email to the service desk. Go do this for them, right? The service, they're chasing paper. We're dealing with leases, so we're installing our lease products, right? The service desk, they're chasing paperwork, they're chasing document, they're chasing signatures. The sales guys are on the phone. Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff? Where's my stuff, right? So the first implementation was we basically used a case-based process. If you look at my world, we're doing one of two things. We're doing cases or we're doing opportunities, right? Just about everything in the world is focused around those two objects. And if you look at them, have to trigger code to where it is. So we basically mimicked the existing manual process. It kept the service desk in the middle. Why? Because it was easier. There's this magic status change that happened in the background. They never thought about the fact that, what if I wanted to redo it? Well, sorry, status has already changed. It's already gone to third party. There's no thought around, broken processes, stepping back. Guy called me 15 minutes after I pushed the button, say, oh, hey, I got to change. And none of that consideration. So, didn't work. So, the new process. Lots of shortcomings. The big deal, sales management, perception, broken process. Salesforce was supposed to fix it. Why don't they fix it? So we said, okay, the experiment is we're going to fix it. They had a lot of changes, right? Sales guys wanted the control. I wanted the service guys out of it. Service guys wanted out of it. They wanted some things needed to be fast-tracked. Some needed approvals. They didn't have an approval process originally. That kind of stuff, right? Lots more, and it just went on for a week. So, quick view of the world. We had a view that was basic opportunities on one side. Then we had leasing, right? And out of the leasing side, which the service desk was chasing where the installation cases were going on. We moved to a process that was more focused on opportunity, right? So they're a sales guy, they're an opportunity. We want the work to happen in opportunity, including, once they push the magic button and get the approval, go through creating the case products. We have this really cool thing called case actions. I don't know if anybody does that. We do it all over the place. It's basically kind of a view of what are the steps that need to happen as part of this case. And we have literally at this time, 15 different case record types. And so if you look at the trigger code, right, what are the trigger code? Every time you do something, is it this record type? Is it this record type? Is it this record type, right? Really ugly. So, some key takeaways. Some of the stuff we needed to do. I'm going to show you a paper demo because I don't trust what we got going on here. Yeah, demo 2. All right. My view of opportunity. Apologize because it's foggy, but I said better foggy than making these kinds of things in the window there, right? So what do we got? This is an opportunity. We have a whole bunch of stuff related to our business process, stage 1, stage 2, all the junk that we do, right? It's all hidden. That's not germane to what we're talking about here. But it goes on through multiple stage view of the world. Some point in time, this particularly is a recess conversion, or some fictitious hospital, general hospital somewhere. This is what we call create install case. This used to be a service person, right? So go through the whole process. Now the sales guy is saying, create the install case. So what is that under the covers? Obviously JavaScript. How many have done JavaScript buttons? How many have stopped doing JavaScript buttons? Yeah, bad stuff, right? If you want to go to Lightning, you got to get rid of them. So we got JavaScript buttons on every page, every form. That's the way the vendor implemented it, right? We're changing all this. If I was doing this today, I wouldn't do it this way. It works, right? Basically, the JavaScript going down here in a day, calling a class, go do some work for them. Not much to see here, right? Key point. The code, this is probably about, I don't know, 500 lines of code in this particular thing. I took this out of 6 different triggers. Took all the code out, basically cut the code volume in half, took out a whole bunch of checks for stuff, and basically put it in a single class, single test case that hardly ever changes because we don't really change this process. Boom, it works fine. Right? So you don't actually write the code, all you can do is go find it if it already exists. So what happened? You press the magic button. You got a case. Right? Magic happened under the covers. What was going on before, they did an opportunity. We took all the data from the opportunity, basically pre-filled everything into the case form. Sales guy, they don't have to retype all that opportunity. They were getting a blank case before, right? Fill in the case. Didn't go over very well. They go through the process, right? So a couple of points that I want to show. You see where the opportunity, where it came from. I blurred this out here, but I mean basically the case active things. So once they're happy with it, submit for approval. You've seen the approval process. I'm not going to go through it all. Just your conversation. You've seen these things before, right? Standard approval process. Looks really ugly. Hate debugging them. You could do the same thing in Power Builder and Process Builder. Right here, existing approval workflows, they're already there. Go in there, click the one, select the one you want. You got to figure out whether you want about the entry criteria, where you want it or not. But if you have a set of approvals and you want to make them automated, bam, it's right there. It's already built for you. So here's kind of got into the post-approvals. This is where we did a lot of process builder work, right? So basically we're triggering up a case. We're saying, did you install, get it approved? And then we're going to go build all these case actions, right? No recursion. When a record is created or edited, right? Because it could come anywhere. Condition-based kind of stuff, right? Checking the approval. Notice we have this. All the conditions are met, right? There's only one condition there. One thing that's kind of cool. We talked about this, right? You want to execute the actions only when there's specified changes. So you looked at this at the first part, you would say, well, every time the record got updated, it would say it was approved. It would redo the work, right? So basically, it's just kind of your trigger view of the world, right? When it gets approved, the one time the update happens that it got approved, I want to run this. After that, it's never going to run again. Cool? So, case actions. So, what are we calling? Calling a class. What's in that class? A whole bunch of code I ripped out of triggers, right? Some of it, a lot of it new, but a lot of it that we basically had in trigger code. Not in there anymore. Not run every time someone runs an update. Doesn't, it's out of the path, right? Really cool. If you want to find an Apex class, it tells you what's available for you to call. There's some special aspects of a class that you can call from Process Builder. I'll talk about that real quick. Who knows this? Invocable method. Ugh. Took me a week to figure out what was going on with it, right? But it works really well, right? Magic code. Right here. You build a class, you put this statement in there, bing, this becomes invocable from that prior screen, right? You only have one invocable method per class. I thought this was really cool. I built this big utility class with all these methods that I could call. Doesn't work that way. Maybe someday, but right now, what you end up with are real specialized functions, right? So you get classes that are relatively small, specifically do a function for Process Builder. You're in, you're out, you're done. I'm not going to go into this. Again, this is several hundred lines long. Basically, what he's doing, what ends up happening is these actions. Once they submit it for approval, gets approved, we build a whole bunch of actions, right? These are all the things that need to happen for this case to be completed. And you go down the list. And we actually, in the background, have a lot of web-based integration with external third parties, right? So there's communication going back and forth as these things get checked off by the installers and the customers. Goes down the list. And basically, everyone knows what's going on, right? Before, this list of case actions was whatever the customer service guy typed in the notes. That's what they knew, right? Didn't get typed in the notes, they didn't know what was going on. Now it's pretty clear. There's all the things around, you know, what's our expected duration, right? So you would think there's a lot of code to manage that, right? Reality is, all we did was build a custom setting. So the business team goes in there and they change it. They want to change durations. They want to add new things, right? They want to add more things. They want to manage, so, you know, if it's this kind of thing, is it assigned to the case owner? Is it assigned to the coordinator? Totally controllable at their side. They want 100 objects. They want 100. They can have 5, whatever they want to do. And the code pretty much is done that manages that, right? So no more code changes when they make a process change. Change the dates. Works pretty well. That's kind of the process. The other thing that we talked about a lot was stop emailing, or when are you going to email me, right? We built a process builder for that. There's a whole bunch of stuff, and this is probably the last as far as we're going to go with this. But one of the things I talked about earlier was you got all this long list of things. You go down here and you can build logic, right? You can say, if this set is true, I want it to do this. What we're saying here is sales guy determining what is the frequency of emails coming out of the case. It's like, this is a high case, I want a lot of frequency. This is a low case, this is the medium case. So we're checking all these things, and we're basically sending, out of this process, we're sending email. We're saying, if it used to be in code. Time we want to change it, we have to go change it, right? Works actually pretty well, so I actually was pretty surprised. Basically just an alert. Sales guy determines who's getting notified and when, and what set of priority. Talked earlier about formulas and some of the kind of stuff. This particular thing, we're basically looking at an object and looking at related a list and reporting back up to the original object a whole bunch of stuff, right? In this case, we're aggregating what kinds of products are on this case. So if you do this work where you have You're trying to basically report upwards through the object chain. Maybe you don't actually have a chain. Stuff actually works pretty good. You're in there, you're out, basically. Bunches of other things. This is another really interesting one. I'm going to click right through this. Date code conversion. Anybody do that? This is a spreadsheet. They came to us, they said, convert the spreadsheet into Salesforce. The admin did it literally in half a day. Took that spreadsheet and basically, what these are is a bunch of variable. If you look at products that have a date code with this magic number, right? Every year they change how they do their date code. Basically, I complain, they type in the date code, automatically converts it for them, puts it in the case, tells them everything they need to do. With like 100 spreadsheets in the customer service organization just to do this. Literally half a day's worth of work with process builder and a date code conversion. Basically say when someone enters a date code into a complaint case, do the conversions for them automatically. Throw the spreadsheets away. Here's my aggregate list. Talked about the fact that you can, in this visual workflow, you can loop through. So like we're going through a master object, looking through all of the related lists, aggregating upwards, this is string data, it's not numbers, right? We're basically saying what categories are on this, I don't even know what it's on. Create missing data. We used to do this in code. We don't do that anymore, right? So we have a case that came in. This is a complaint. They don't know the account. They don't know the contact. Basically, the admin did it for them. So this is kind of the decision tree. So you can get pretty complex with this stuff, right? If you want to do that, works really well. That's my demo. Got about a minute left. Actually, I know I'm over my time. So I have more to tell if anybody's got more interest in some of the stuff. What's the next? I've done 25% of the code in 6 months. My chain of pending work that was waiting on dev has gone down by almost 70%. I had admins waiting around for trigger changes. We talk about processes now, we don't talk about code, we talk about, can we do it visually? If we can't do it visually, then we'll engage some class development, but literally, I would think 80% or more of our process changes are going through process builder, workflow, those kinds of things. So the tool works, it works really well. Still a bit immature, right? So you gotta have some tolerance for some immaturity. Everyone knows that process builder, or you should know that process builder was built on top of visual workflow. They're actually the same tool. You couldn't tell it by looking at it. I would expect that what you're going to see in the future are those two tools merging into much more of a process builder kind of style, right? Whenever you do a visual workflow, I would expect you to soon be able to do that in process builder. So, a really good time, it's stable. When I started, it wasn't stable. Every time we got you promotes, things would crash, we couldn't promote Apex-based systems. It was just really a nightmare. But I'll be honest, we promote probably 2 or 3 of these things, the process builders, every 2 weeks, maybe more. I literally have 3 pages of process builders in my production implementation, and I've got almost 2.5 pages of workflow. Right?
What would you recommend not using process builder for?
So what does process builder not do really well? And you guys, if you want to go ahead. We got somebody else coming in? I think we got a couple of minutes, but I do have a slide on that. So some of my comments, learnings. So where do we position it? It's a great admin tool, standalone. If you want to use it with Apex, it's really great for developers. You put it together, you got a team. All right. I sit right across from. I'm embedded with the application with the business team. We sit right across from each other. We are constantly doing this work over and over again. Last slide. What to watch out? Well, you saw it already. Complex testing, multiple branching, doesn't work. You got to go to visual workflow, right? Not real good for looping through a series of child records and operating on them. You can do that in visual workflow. It's really a little bit iffy right now on process builder. Outbound calls, can't do it. Need Apex code to do it. You want to send a Twitter message, you want to do something else, can't do it. These guys run, one problem I ran into, both process builder and visual workflow run in the context of the user. So that means you have a security or authorization related issue sometimes. You need to be careful of that. You know, the versioning, today it kind of sucks, right? I'll be honest with you. I need to debug it, trial and error, just like debugging anything else in Salesforce. You tend to build process builder and visual workflow kind of side by side, so it feels like you're redoing it, right? You get this kind of view as I'm building it here and I'm building it here. So that's still, I think, from a user experience, a little bit iffy. I expect that to come together. And you'll build it all side by side. That, I think, is probably the biggest issue that I would put forward with it right now. You know, you got a lot of questions. Why not code? Test classes. That's my number one issue, right? I hate test classes so bad. You know, the developers are focused on building small, reusable classes that have a functionality. Building a library, right? And then basically with the admins calling these kind of microservices, if you want to go to that level, it's probably not real accurate, but I mean, that's kind of the vision of what we have here. If we got to write code, got to be reusable. I'm not going to embed a lot of process in that code. I'm going to make it do a thing, right? If you want this thing done, just call it. Good. Has it made any difference? Yes, it has. You can look at the second half of the year here. Close, 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 close. The other thing that we did is we went here, we said anything that's over a year old, cancel it. Wait for them to come back around. I haven't yet for a lot of them, so I guess we didn't need it. That's it. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, questions from the board? Given your process builder mostly based out of objects, and you said you make a couple a week, how do you keep track of all of them? If all of them is the same object, what is the conflicting with each other?
So that's an issue, right? Right now, if I go build 10 process builders on account, they're all going to run, right? So one way you do it is you manage it, making sure you're very focused on your filters, right? The other thing is I'm always going back to the admins and saying, hey, you already have this process builder, can you modify that? Can you add another set of things to the existing thing? Because this isn't free, right? Order of operations, you're going to call triggers. I mean, it's not free. So if you call it 10 times, it's 10 separate updates, 10 separate trigger executions. My world is kind of a big deal because 9 times out of 10 you're going to get too many S's well there. And that's what we done.
Do you have any view on mini process builder or any other enhanced process builders?
Sorry?
Mini there's an advanced process builder on Salesforce.com.
I haven't seen it. I'm expecting some big things out of Salesforce. I really am. So, it's great. It's implemented. And again, it works really well from an admin perspective. So, other questions? Yeah, sure.
We have a lot of workflows in our company.
A lot of workflows are visual workflows.
No, just the workflow.
Workflow rules. Sorry.
We have how we can get the process and stop using it.
Well, I think it's pretty much. You gotta do the work. I would encourage you to do that. I'm still struggling with a lot of workflows. The other thing that's really important, you got to be able to turn some stuff off.
That's what it's asking. Mine are workflow rules on the approval process, and then just a process to submit. So we do the whole thing.
You absolutely can. I mean, so I think you'll find you have a lot more capabilities if you do it, right? But it's not free, there's any tool. But if you know the process, go out there, design the process, try it out, right? Do it in a sandbox, don't do it everywhere else.
So I have one more question.
Sure.
I think it's a magic question. Is there a way, do you know, to use Process Builder or anything else to stop my users from navigating away from a record before they save it?
Before they what?
Before they save it.
Before they say,
We have it happen a lot.
so it's fairly easy in some of the scripting and things that basically push you to, you go into a different outlet.
They're either, yeah.
So you're adding stuff and all of a sudden you show up.
Yeah.
I would almost guarantee you've got some return pointing to what's around it. So I would got it where you look first.
So I would.
Someone's got some script.
Dawn and admin to do that.
Yeah, someone's got some script and pointing you back.
Okay.
But some of the tools actually, workflow in particular, if you call workflows, visual workflows, there's a parameter that says where do I want to go when I'm done. We always like to come back to the same spot. But it doesn't work that way naturally. You have to make it come back to the same spot.
I don't know if that's, so for us, our project management tool is custom objects in Salesforce. So they're updating the project status, tons of work, and then they click chat. I don't know why. And they don't save. And then they want me to get then they can't. So,
Yeah, I mean, so the good news is, it's a pretty good community, right? So if you're interested in there, I spend a lot of time on the Salesforce dev community.
Okay.
Market Atlanta, that's me, right? So, I only ask questions, so, because I haven't done it. Yeah, I'm gonna pull the plug here.
Okay. Mark, can we
Yeah.
get a copy of your